about his involvement as I have come to expect.
So what do you remember about the early days?
Not that much.
Not that much.
No, because what I did was quite normal for me. It was just giving honest information, honest advice. So according to me, nothing special happened. Besides, I was giving them the information and the context they needed.
Patrick explained how he initially had reservations about meeting Van der Breggen and Oosterom, having had his own negative past experiences with journalists. But he was quickly won over by their grasp of the subject and their commitment to doing justice to the story. So when they asked for names of survivors who might be willing to come forward, he was ready to oblige.
So one of the first guys I contacted was Frank, who is now in Reclaimed Voices, and Frank said, Frank, this is the golden opportunity for you to come out with your story and help people. And he said, yeah, but what about this and what about that? And I said, well, they promised you could do your story completely anonymously. Did they promise that? Yeah, they promised it. And he did it anonymously. And after 3 weeks, he saw how many reactions the article in Trouw, the newspaper, provoked. And he said, this is not possible. That many people who suffered the same struggle as I struggled through. And I said, yeah. He said, I have to make my name public. I said, well, that's your decision. And shortly after that, Reclaimed Voices was born.
Were you surprised at what they've managed to achieve?
I'm not surprised because I saw the energy they had inside themselves. I saw the motivation they had. They were not after honor. They were not after making a name. They were especially driven by giving justice to the victims of a system that refuses to change its policy.
Despite knowing Patrick for years and hearing him tell many stories of his time inside the organisation, up to this point I had never directly asked him about his knowledge of child sex abuse from his years as an elder. Wanting to know more about his motivations for exposing this issue, I decided now was the time to broach the subject.
You've been an elder for a number of years. How many years were you an elder?
Much too long.
Too long.
No, I was appointed as an elder when I was only 23 years old, and I continued doing that up to I was about 45. And
That's
so
a
that
long
means
time.
about 22 years. Yeah.
And in that time period, how many times did you encounter reports of child sex abuse?
I remember one major time when about 10 young girls approached me. It started with one young girl, 14 years old in that time, who was asking me during the preaching from door to door, is it normal that that brother is doing this and that and that? And I said, no, this is not normal. Did it happen by accident?
This is just a conversation while you were
Yeah.
preaching from door to door.
Yeah. And then she made it clear that she was not the only victim, that even the man's daughter was raped by him, and that her sister was abused as well, and there were other girls. So I started an investigation, and the guy fled to the branch in Brussels. And was crying and crying and crying, and he confessed that he abused not only his daughter but several girls in the congregation. And so Betel knew about our intention to start a judicial committee, and they gave me a phone call and they said, Patrick, you cannot excommunicate him because he is repentful. And I said, well, I'm sorry, but We are completely free to make our own decision without any suggestion from Betel. We are an independent judicial committee, not influenced by Betel. They said, yeah, but I tell you that you will not excommunicate him. He said, well, we will see what the decision of the judicial committee is.
But Patrick was to learn that the branch had also ordered the 2 other members of the judicial committee to similarly look the other way, so that a man they knew to be a sexual predator ended up being only reproved, not disfellowshipped. A reproof is given when the sinner is considered repentant, in which case, rather than being shunned, they are only placed under fairly inconsequential restrictions, such as no longer being allowed to comment at meetings for a few months. The obvious problem here is that the organisation is assuming pedophilia is something a person can be sorry for and won't act on again. In this case, within a month of being reproved, the perpetrator had abused his own daughter. When confronted by elders, he claimed his daughter had seduced him. This time he was finally disfellowshipped, but it wouldn't take long before he would return, seeking reinstatement.
Some years later, then I was on the edge of giving up as an elder. He came back to the congregation and he wanted to be reinstated as a Jehovah's Witness. And he moved out to another congregation, so the body of elders contacted us as the rules are telling them. Really wants to come back. What are you advising? And I said, well, you know why he was excommunicated? No, but he is repentful and comes to the congregation, to the meetings every week. His new wife is coming with him and his children, so we are positive about reinstating him. I said, you know he's a child abuser? No, it's not possible. Yeah, please contact Betel and ask about it. And Betel confirmed it. I said, well, I'm pro his reinstatement on one condition. Tell him that he has the choice to report himself to the police, or I will report him to the police, because there are still young girls in the congregation and I don't want any more victims. So he has the choice. Instead of warning him, they went to Betel. Betel gave me a phone call and said, Patrick, what are you going to do? Are you going to the police? And I said, yes, I have 2 daughters and I don't want none of them to be a victim of that guy who is a child abuser. I said, well, he is repentful, he will be reinstated, and if you go to the police, we will withdraw all your responsibilities in the congregation. You will lose everything. And I was shocked and I didn't do it. I was what is happening here? Who is protected? And afterwards, some weeks later, I gave up as an elder, so they didn't have to take it away from me. I gave up as an elder, and because of other circumstances in my life, which I told about already. But anyhow, when I left the Jehovah's Witnesses, the first thing I had to do was to clean up my conscience, and I went to the police, and I reported him to the police.
So just to make it absolutely clear, you were told by the Brussels branch not to disfellowship.
Correct.
An admitted pedophile.
By Lobby Do It. Yeah. And later on, when I was confronted with the question, can I be reinstated? And I told him that I would report him to the police. It was David van den Driessen who gave me a phone call and said, Patrick, if you do that, we will withdraw all your responsibilities.
So you were threatened?
Yeah. Definitely.
I found this testimony chilling. Over the course of filming, I had spoken to victims of abuse and witnessed how their lives had been forever scarred by the trauma of their ordeal.